Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Okay, poddies, it is the 9th of September. I am officially on the countdown. It's only 13 days to my birthday. Oh my goodness. And today I am heading into London. So as you're listening to this, please pity me. I will be on a commuter hour train. Oh my goodness. For the first time, and I can't remember how long, I'm off to do a VIP day with the amazing Ali Brown. Very, very excited about this. Like I say, keep an eye on Instagram today. I have no doubt that both Ali and myself will be sharing some really cool insights from the day, some photos of lunch, because we all know that I do love a good food photo, and obviously some really, really cool things that will be going on in my business. And you might even get to see me being coached, which could be an interesting experience. So make sure you check that out over on Instagram. That is what I am going to be up to today. And then obviously tomorrow I get to do the exciting journey. I'm off to Newcastle to speak at the fabulous Retain Live with the amazing Mike and Callie from the membership guys. If you are at the event, please make sure you come and say hello. It's always really weird being a speaker at an event because you kind of get into that weird space where nobody wants to talk to you because they're like, oh my God, you have speaker written on your label. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't possibly talk to you because you're a speaker. So because you're a speaker, you also become a loner by default. So if you are going to be at the event, make sure you do come up, say hello, and let me know what your kind of key goals are for attending Retain, what you're hoping to get out of it. I'm very, very excited about the week ahead. But even though I am super excited about the week ahead, I'm also sat here recording today's episode thinking about the big question that actually came up a lot over the last 3 months from my clients, from my community, which is about breaking through specific revenue levels. And it's a really interesting one for me because obviously today I'm spending the day with Ali, and she is somebody who has, in the last probably 2 or 3 years of her career, been spending her time really focusing on helping women at a certain revenue level in their business. You can only attend Iconic if you are making £250,000 or dollars, because she's American, a year or more, and her services go up from there. And that's been really, really interesting for me to work with this year, because one of the questions that I get a lot from people is, I'm hitting a certain revenue plateau and I don't know how to get any further. And obviously, when you start to work with somebody who defines the people that they're going to work with based on revenue level and based on ability and mastery, that's quite an interesting shift. But also in the UK this year, we've had some really interesting research come out. We had the Rose Review run in collaboration with the UK financial services industry that talked about specifically women in business and the statistics around how successful they are. And they were quite shocking. I'm going to dig into some of those during the episode. So if you like a good statistic, keep tuned, or stay tuned is actually, I suppose, the best way of saying that. But also I conducted my own research survey this year and had some really interesting results and things that came up. And one of the biggest things that did come up was that women were used to getting to a certain stage in their business, used to getting to a certain financial level, and then just plateauing and not being able to, or seemingly not being able to, get to those higher level months revenue-wise that they wanted to. And that's a really interesting thing for me to hear, because for me, growing up, I use the phrase growing up lightly, right? Obviously, I didn't grow up a salesperson. My parents were normal and didn't make me work as like a chimney sweep or something as a child. But my first jobs, my career, my whole time in corporate was focused around selling. And so actually it was very rare not to have a conversation about money, not to be judged on the size of your last deal. And so for me, coming into the online space and seeing people hit certain plateaus, there were different ways of looking at it. Sometimes it was about looking at it and thinking, is there a particular reason that this person is stuck at that level from a mindset perspective? Is it a confidence thing? Is it that they don't really believe that they can do it, so they're self-sabotaging? there was also a practical element. When we come into the online world and we talk about business coaching, or we have a business coach, a lot of the time, weirdly, they won't actually look at your numbers, and they won't encourage you to be tracking your metrics. So actually, sometimes there's a practical element of not being able to get past the plateau that is simply not being able to effectively track your metrics and know what to change. Some people end up at a point where they just don't have the capacity to deliver anymore, and therefore they can't sell anymore. So they get to the self-imposed income plateau that they can't change, purely because they haven't run the numbers. They haven't assessed their own profitability or their own capacity for delivery. So that's what we're going to dig into today, what you can look at, how you can identify where this plateau has come from, and actually what you can change about it. But I just want to preface this with, it's a common issue. If you are experiencing this, if you're at the point where you're like, I have been in my business for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, and I cannot get past £1,000 a month, £5,000 a month, £10,000 a month, whatever it is that you're looking at, I just want you to know that this is something that everybody does go through. And it's up to you how you choose to handle it. You can choose to avoid all practicality and simply go with different mindset techniques. Perhaps you're a big fan of affirmations or positive thinking, or spray and pray marketing. Sounded really sarcastic, didn't it? But it's true. You can go down that route. You can completely avoid all the practicality, and I'm not saying that those things won't help, bar the spray and pray marketing, obviously. But the only time that something changes is if we are willing to make the change. So when you're going through this episode and you're hearing the things that you could do, don't just hear them, actually listen to them and then go away and do them. And then you'll find that actually you're able to make yourself move through that plateau a bit quicker. And obviously, if you are looking to inject cash into your business, make sure you are signed up for the 5 Steps to 5K challenge next week. We are starting. I'm very, very excited about that. 16th of September. Get it in your calendar. Woo, woo, woo. Link to sign up is in the show notes. So make sure that you go and grab your space. Even if you're not looking to make your first 5K month, this challenge has been designed to help you make your next 5K in your business. And it gives you the 5 steps that you need to do that. So make sure you go over there into the show notes, grab the link, sign yourself up. It's going to be busy. It's going to be the week before my birthday. I'm going to be very overexcited and delivering a lot of support over in the challenge. So make sure you get yourself in there. But how common really is this issue of us plateauing at a certain income level? Well, when I was reading the stats for the Rose Review, I started having a bit of a look around and looking at some other studies, because you can't always just take one set of statistics and say, yeah, okay, of course they are the right ones. And so over the last 12 months, I started looking at studies by American Express. I started looking at studies like the Rose Review. I started looking at different business journals and seeing what was coming up and how common these issues in terms of revenue plateau were, in terms of how successful businesses were being. And one of the interesting things for me was that actually over the last 11 years, we've actually been creating more businesses than ever before. So women particularly have actually started and almost doubled the rate at which they are creating businesses. So 11 years ago, we had 29% of businesses were female owned, and now we have over 40% of businesses are female owned. And another great thing about this was that over 20% of female-owned businesses created in 2018 alone were owned by women in colour. Now, I think that's huge. And if you listen to the episode on diversity with Sian Kyra a few weeks ago, you'll know that diversity and inclusion has become a huge thing, particularly in the online space. And so for me, it was really nice to see that actually women are going out there, taking one for the team. We're building businesses, we're contributing to the economy. Yay, I was getting very excited. And then here, when I started digging into it, and again, this is why you should always read around your statistics. Actually, what I realized was that whilst globally women are starting to contribute a larger amount of new businesses, and more women every year are setting up businesses than ever before, which is awesome, the total revenue share that female-owned businesses command in the global market. Okay, so the total revenue share, the amount of money that female-owned businesses are making in comparison to everybody else has actually only risen from 4% of total revenue share to 4.3%. Okay, so we've actually, we have almost double the amount of women setting up new businesses across the globe, which is very exciting. We have all these developments in terms of, more women in color being able to set up businesses, and that's awesome too. But actually, in terms of revenue share, despite the fact that we've created a ton more businesses that are female owned over the last 11 years, we've actually only gone up 0.3% in terms of revenue share. That is really terrifying to me. And, it's terrifying to me for a number of reasons. One is that it means that 94% or 93.7% of the total revenue share globally is not being made by women. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going on a hardcore rant here. Men that listen to the podcast, I think you guys are awesome. And actually, I think this shows that actually how powerful it is to focus on other things. And I'm going to talk about the differences in the ways that men and women sell this episode and in future episodes, because I think it's quite useful to understand. And I don't think we can actually blame it on men either. I feel very sorry for anybody who is male at the moment. I think, guys are getting a really bad rap. And, there are some that deserve it, obviously, because that's just how it goes. But equally, there are some really great men out there who are firm advocates and allies for women, who are supporting female-owned businesses. I have a lot of male-owned clients. I have a lot of male clients who are phenomenal and they work really hard, and obviously they buy from me. They are supporting a female-owned business. But it is shocking to me that the total revenue share commanded by female-owned businesses in the last few years has actually only risen up by 0.3%. And what that means very simply is women are not selling. Women are not making as much money. Women are not pushing their businesses forward in terms of revenue growth. Okay. And I think when we see that statistic, it kind of gives us a very bold and a very stark look at that, because in the online space, it can be really easy to surround yourself with a bunch of other people who also aren't making a ton of money. So you kind of go, oh, well, it's fine. It's fine. It's normal. It's all good. I don't need to sell. This person isn't selling either, so it's all fine. And we actually start to see our standards drop slightly. Oh, okay, well, that person isn't selling every day, so I'm not going to either. And, oh, okay, that person's not marketing every day, so I'm not going to either. And, oh, well, that makes me feel uncomfortable when that person does market or does sell, or how awkward is it when they're always offering something for somebody else to buy. And we can get caught up in that, and we can start to feel okay about not doing the work. And then we look at a stat like that and think, okay, actually 4.3% of total revenue share. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It means that there is 93.7% of total revenue share up for grabs, right? From any business owner. Doesn't have to be female owned. The other stat that really bothered me, and again, men, I'm sorry you're having to listen to a bunch of female focused stats here, but I promise you it's worth it. The other stat that really bothered me was that 62% of women rely on their business as their sole source of income, which is great, right? Okay, it means that over 50% of women who are starting up businesses are actually using it as their full-time employment. That's what they're relying on as their sole source of income. I think that's awesome. I think it's very brave. 88% of female business owners and female-owned businesses will never make more than £100,000. 88% will never make more than £100,000. And so when we're talking about this revenue plateau and people are saying, well, how do I bust through this limit? Well, and we're talking about the fact that it is common. Yes, it is. And it's scarily common. It is scarily common to me and scarily frustrating that 88%, of female business owners will never make more than 100K. And I think that is particularly, given how many female business owners are relying on their business as a sole source of income, I think that's very, very sad. And that's why it's so important for me to actually run this episode today. It's why it's so important for me to talk about this topic. It's why it's so important for me that we really start having the conversation on the podcast about, honestly, how can you be making more money? And actually, do you have a responsibility to yourself and to, the collective community of business owners to start contributing more both to yourself, your own financial future, and also to the economy, which we all know is a bit dodgy at the moment anyway. Hello, October and potential Brexit, non-Brexit. Yeah, not going to get into politics on that one, but needless to say, it's going to cause financial uncertainty regardless of what happens. We are in an economic climate where actually it's really good for people, for everybody, to take control, to be in control of your own ability to generate revenue and also to contribute to the global economy, which at the moment really is struggling. Okay, so when we're talking about the reasons that we plateau in terms of revenue, or the reasons that we can't get past a certain revenue number. Sorry, I'm absolutely struggling with pollen today. So I am sniffy and gross. And if anyone else has hay fever, then you will know that I'm sat here, eyes streaming, nose streaming. It's the most unattractive time of the year for me, I think. But I will try not to sniff too much, and hopefully Scott can do his best to edit some of those out. But anyway, when it comes to this plateau, when we experience a revenue plateau, generally it's for one of two reasons. Obviously, like we discussed earlier, one can be mindset. It can be that we have a self-imposed limit where when a certain number comes in, we feel like that is unachievable or unattainable for us. Okay, now that's really common. It's something that does often come up more in women than it does in men. It's closely related to confidence, and it's also much more likely, I found with the results of my own research survey, to be held in women that attach their self-worth to the amount of revenue that they generate. And this is an interesting point that I debate with my biz besties all the time, particularly the amazing Heather Gray. We talk about it quite regularly. The fact that your self-worth shouldn't be attached to how much money you're making. But that's actually a very difficult distinction to make sometimes, particularly when you are identifying as a business owner, particularly when you are aiming for these high goals and you're not hitting them. You can start to attach that feeling of failure to you as a person rather than attribute it to the real factors that are coming in terms of, am I doing enough lead generation? Am I converting enough high quality leads? Am I pricing correctly? And looking at the practical aspects that are actually falling into that. So that's the first aspect is mindset is, okay, well, actually, do I have a self-imposed limit with that number? Do I really believe that it's possible for me? Now, annoyingly, I'm one of those people who has never had that thought. And I'm going to explain why, because otherwise everyone's going to be like, oh my God, Jess, what an unsympathetic git you are. I promise you that's not true. I feel very much for people who do have that thought. But again, because I've grown in that sales environment, it was so normal to talk about money. It was so normal to have huge deals on the table that would go through, that wouldn't go through. And you didn't attach it to you as a person. So in terms of having sales targets and goals, I never really believed that I couldn't make a certain amount of money. Even as my targets in the corporate space got higher and higher and higher, I didn't really worry about hitting them because they weren't attached to me as a human being. It wasn't that if something went wrong, if a deal didn't come through, then suddenly I wasn't a good person or suddenly I was rubbish at my job or whatever. It was just, that's life. That's how it works sometimes. Sometimes not everything goes your way. And so when I came into the online space, actually I found it much harder in the online space to make my first £10,000 than I did to make anything else. And, that was the bit for me. It wasn't a mindset thing. It was a practicality thing. I walked away from corporate. I stopped doing a lot of things that I was doing. I stopped setting myself KPIs. I basically, came out of high performance mode. It wasn't that I was particularly worried about making a certain number. And so if you do have a mindset issue, you've got to really think about this. Is it a mindset issue, or am I just not doing the work? And I want you to be really honest with yourself. You don't have to obviously come and tell me. You don't have to announce it on the internet. But really think about what the issue is. Now, if you are having a mindset issue with a certain number, again, you can dig into that and you can look at, is there a reality in the story that I'm telling myself here about not being able to make that number? So for example, if you've never sold anything online before and you're being told to go and hit your first 50K month, yeah, I'm not surprised you'd have a mindset issue with that. It's not going to happen either. Like, it's very, very rare. There are a very small percentage of people who, without any sales experience, without having an established business, without having, a certain audience size, would be able to go and just create a 50K month at the beginning of their business. Or even if you've been in business a couple of years and you haven't been selling at that level and you don't have the numbers and other factors in there, it's not going to be possible. And so your brain is trying to, and rightly so, keep you safe and trying to get you to manage your expectations. Now, it doesn't mean be a Debbie Downer and assume that you're never going to have a 50K month. It just means that right now, this isn't where you are. The story that you are trying to live out isn't one that you have any evidence for. So your brain is rightly saying to you, we've not experienced this before. We're not really sure that's possible. We're trying to manage your expectations and keep you safe. So if you're heading for something that's really unrealistic, and it might not be a 50K month, right? If you've never sold anything online before and you are petrified of sales, having somebody say to you, oh, go make a 10K month, go make a 5K month, go make £1,000 this month, they might seem out of the realms of possibility to you because you've not done it yet, right? Again, doesn't mean you're never going to do it, doesn't mean you won't have that experience, but it does mean that you need to start giving yourself some evidence, or giving your brain some evidence that it can happen and that it will. And that doesn't necessarily mean just have a bunch of post-it notes around the house saying, yeah, I'm going to make a 50K month this month, because we've all tried it. Let's be honest. We've all stuck a post-it note on the fridge, on the mirror, and been like, yep, this is going to be the thing this month. And then, you know, have slowly peeled it off and thrown it in the bin when we've got frustrated. If you're having a mindset issue around the number, you know, make sure that your numbers are realistic. Make sure you're adding good stretch targets on, and actually start targeting yourself with good, better, best goals. You know, think, okay, maybe my good goal is to make 3K this month. That would pay my bills. That would, you know, give me a little bit left over. I'd be happy with that. My better goal would be 5K. That would be awesome. This is what I would do with it. And my best goal would be 7. Okay. Equally, you might go, okay, my good goal is 10. My better goal is 12. My best goal is 15. Even now, I still do this. Like, my good goal is this. My better goal is that. My best goal is this. And it means that I don't fail. Okay. It means that I stretch myself. It means that I, you know, keep my brain in a mode where it's like, yep, this is realistic. You know, we can achieve this. And if I go over the good goal, I know that I can hit, or I have the potential to hit, the better goal. But at no point do I just give myself a flat rate and I'm like, right, I'm just going to hit that, because it doesn't set me up to win, right? It doesn't set me up to succeed. So that's the first thing you want to be thinking about is it really mindset? You know, are there pieces of evidence that are saying this goal is unrealistic? Is that why my mindset is stuck? The next thing to think about with mindset is confidence. One of the questions that Denise Duffield-Thomas actually asked in London when I saw her in, I want to say 2017. That's how long ago it was. But she asked a great question. She said, who do you have to be X per month? Like, whatever your revenue goal is per month. And there were lots of women in the room who attached different meanings and different goals entirely to that amount of revenue. You know, for some people it was about losing weight. I would be a size 10 if I was making, you know, 50K month. I would be safe and secure and happy, and a homeowner came up. I would be in a happy relationship came up. Like, there were lots of things that came up that were absolutely nothing to do with the money, but were everything to do about how this person felt about themselves. And like we were talking about earlier, those pieces of self-worth, those pieces of self-confidence, and they had that attached. And it was like they felt that to get to 10K a month or 20K a month or 50K a month or 100K a month or however much, that they would be a different person. They would be smarter. They would be more confident. They would be braver. They would be thinner. They would be, you know, possess different things. And that's not the case. And, you know, it was really interesting. Denise did this cool thing, which I can't show you because this isn't video, but she did this thing where she demonstrated, you know, it's incremental. You take steps to becoming that person who is the person who can command the higher price, or who can have the big financial revenue month. And you get to that point, you know, you move from that point A to point B, and you realize that actually you are no different. You know, your personality doesn't change. You don't magically get more confident because you have a huge revenue month. And actually it's something that, you know, I've talked about on the podcast before, and I've definitely talked to my colleagues behind the scenes around, is that actually, you know, this whole new level, new devil, you start earning more, but then you get more problems because unfortunately you have to do other things. You have to hire team members and your revenue takes a plateau or even a dip and you start freaking out a little bit. Perhaps you hire the right people and you see an instant ROI. Perhaps you hire the wrong people and you see problems and it costs you more to fix. And then as you go on, you have different clients, you have difficult clients, you have challenges that you weren't expecting to face, you have different issues like I talked about in the last episode around leadership lessons that you have to learn. There's always going to be something. You're never going to wake up and because you have made a certain amount of money go, oh yeah, well, I am now thin and confident and a homeowner and in a great relationship, and that's just how it is. Because we're human, our brain will always find something to be critical about. We will always find a way to be self-critical. And so if you think that this is a mindset thing, you're attaching, in order to make my first 10K month, I will be more confident. Start just being that. Start just saying what you want. Start just doing that and see if that actually helps you. Removing the filter helps you to generate the revenue that you're looking for. Don't try and do it the other way around, okay? Because the revenue will not necessarily come before the way that you feel about yourself changes. That's a really important lesson I think, everybody needs to learn. The other thing here, or the other element to breaking through an imposed revenue level, is the practicalities of it. And I see this a lot. So there are typically 3 kinds of business owner. Okay, when it comes to sales and generating money in their businesses, there are about 3 types of business owner. One is the go-getter, right? I am unashamedly that person. Doesn't matter to me. I've got the goal. I'm off, blinkers on, ready to go. I'm going to hit it no matter what, at what cost, kind of thing. There are pros and cons to being that person. Yes, it's a very masculine way of being. I'm very aware of that. I'm also very okay with it. So if anyone's thinking that they'd like to send me a message on being more feminine, please don't. I'm cool. I've resigned myself to who I am. But for me, it works because naturally I am a pusher. I am somebody who I will set the goal. I will do the very best I can to set myself up to succeed. And if I don't attach that failure to myself as a person. So I am that go-getter and generally, it does stand me in good stead. The downside to being a go-getter means that often I will have the blinkers on. And like I said, it's at what cost? One of the reasons that I burnt out massively in corporate was because I was so determined. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to achieve the goal. And I put in my all at the expense of everything else. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I mean my health. I mean my relationships. I mean my friendships. I mean everything else in my life because I wanted to hit a specific goal. Okay, so you can be the go-getter. You can also be the person who gets to a certain level and you plateau. Right? You are the person who plateaus because, and this could be a mindset thing or it could be a practicality thing, right? It could be a fact that you are maybe in a stage where maybe you don't know how to do certain things in your business, so you can't get it to the next level. Maybe you don't know how to generate more leads. Maybe you're kind of stuck at a level because you've always been doing organic marketing. You're not really sure about paid marketing. Maybe it's due to your circumstances. Maybe you don't have enough time to deliver any more programs. You don't have enough capacity, so you can't actually sell anymore. Maybe it's that you don't take the actions consistently all the time to get to the revenue level that you want to be at. There are lots of different reasons. We're going to dig in a sec, but there are lots of different reasons that you might plateau. Could be mindset, could be practical. And the upside to being somebody who plateaus is that you generally will plateau at a level that you are okay about, right? The majority of people will not plateau at a level that they are unhappy with. They will plateau at a level that allows them to pay their bills, that may not allow them to do much beyond that, but they're covering their costs. Okay, and they're okay. And then you get the dreamers in business, and they're the people who go, yeah, I am a business owner and I'm going to have an X figure business and I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that and da 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 da. But they don't back it up with the practical activities. Okay, generally these people actually have very, very strong mindsets. They're very resilient. They are very determined. They have good mindset practices, but they lack practical application. Okay, and those are the 3 kind of areas that you get to. All have plus points, right? If you are somebody who is a go-getter, you aim to hit the goal. You are very oriented towards that goal and you are very focused, but you will put everything else at risk in order to hit a goal. And sometimes that's not the best way to be. It means that often you can be unbalanced in terms of work-life balance and things like that. You can be the plateauer, which the good side to it is that generally you are consistent. You will generally have quite a loyal following, and you'll probably be better at organic marketing, if I'm honest. And the downside to it is that you do struggle to get beyond a certain point. However, once you are beyond that point, you will find that you will continue to have that same pattern. You will go up a level and then you'll plateau for a bit, and then you'll go up a level and then you'll plateau. Or you could be a dreamer, and you might be the person who, without any practical application, will never have the business, unfortunately, that they want. And I think we have to be quite honest about this, because it's becoming more and more prevalent in the online space that people are very, very focused on mindset and developing more resilience, and that's a wonderful thing. But because they lack the focus in the practical area, they don't achieve the goals that they want to. And they will keep telling themselves that that's okay, that they're okay with that they know it's coming, etc., etc. So they, the plus side to being a dreamer is that they're very positive, they are very resilient, they have a very developed mindset. The downside is they lack practical application. Often they will find it very, very difficult to generate revenue, and they will eventually either decide that their business is done, or they will make some very risky business investments to get where they want to be. And those sometimes will or will not pay off, depending on how willing they are to finally do that practical work. Now, the fourth type of business owner that you will get, so we have those are your three main types, but you will also get a fourth. And they are not rarer than the rest, but the genuine are rarer. And it will depend on what kind of salesperson you are, in all honesty. And those are your feast or famine business owners. And they're the people who 1 month will do 100K and they'll be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, I don't know how it happened. And the next month will do 0. And it will continue in that kind of pattern. And they might have 3 months a year where they make nothing. And they might have 1 month where they make 100K. And then they might have another 2 months where they make 5K. It's just very sporadic. And again, it's because there's no balance there. Okay. And, that can be challenging to find in a business. So when we're talking about the practical aspects of hitting that next revenue goal, breaking through an income plateau, we have to look at specific things. We have to look at, okay, what are our metrics? Do we actually know how many sales calls, for example, it takes us to make a sale? Do you know what your conversion rate is on calls? And, do you know how many leads it takes you to get one sales call in the first place? So for example, when I was in corporate, when I first started, they would target us to have a certain amount of conversations per week. And you would have to add a certain amount of people on LinkedIn, and then you would have to send a certain amount of messages, and then you would have to have a certain amount of conversations, and those conversations would pay off to a certain amount of opportunities. And one of the things that became very clear to me was that I really liked this system, because I knew I could almost predict my income, because I knew that if I spent 10 hours on the phone every week and I generated 5 conversations, then from those 5 conversations would come 3 opportunities, and I could generally close 2 out of 3. So I knew, right, okay, if I want to close 6 opportunities instead of 2, I'm going to have to do more work. I'm going to have more conversations. I could actually give it a numeric value as to what I was going to have to do. And that's what we forget is that practical aspect of, okay, well, what does it actually take? So it's worth, if you're looking at scaling that revenue or breaking through a specific plateau, is looking, well, what does it take me to get here every month? If you're already making, let's say, 5K a month pretty consistently, and you're like, right, okay, 5K a month means that I'm, perhaps getting 3 clients, all right? And it takes me 15 sales calls to get those 3 clients. You've got a choice. You can either get more sales calls and you can book more sales calls and you can get more leads and you can close more of them, or you can simply up your conversions, improve your sales call skills, get higher conversions, and then you will close more calls and actually have to make less, but you will gain more. So we have to look at those practical aspects. And obviously, if you are struggling with sales calls, please make sure that you go and you check out my free guide on the top 10 ways to book more sales calls. If booking sales calls is something you struggle with, make sure that you head over to the link in the show notes and grab that free resource, because that's a great way of helping you book more sales calls, more qualified sales calls, so you can actually have a better opportunity of producing high quality leads that will convert into clients for you. So we have that aspect. Are we actually tracking what we've been doing, or have we been, in effect, accidentally successful. Like, we know we want to make X amount per month. We know we can do that. So we're doing enough work to get by, but we're not necessarily doing any more. The other thing that we have to look at is, the practical aspects in terms of things like pricing. And this is always an interesting one. So when we get to a plateau in our income, again, especially if you're working one-to-one or done with you, done for you, you will get to a capacity where you can't actually deliver any more to clients. And so you only have a very limited amount of spots, and you can only sell what you have. It's like being in Tesco and then running out of sandwiches. You can't sell what isn't there. I can't sell you a sandwich for tomorrow because you don't want it tomorrow. You want it right here, right now. I've just thought about that 90s song. Right here, right now. I can't remember any of the other words, but that's what I'm thinking of. So this is the thing. If you are at capacity, then you need to look at, well, actually I need to raise my prices because I can't physically deliver more. I can't magic up more time. So actually what I need to do is make my time more valuable. And, one of the most common things we see with people who have plateaued at a certain income level is that they do not raise their rates. They get so used to, okay, I can sell at this rate. I feel comfortable selling at this rate. I'm happy talking about it, that they forget just how scared they once were to charge that. And they don't want to charge anymore because they feel that they're in the sweet spot. Now, obviously you have two options. You can raise your rates, and again, you can make more and do exactly the same amount of work as you're currently doing, or you can choose to diversify. And again, you can choose to go off, create group programs, masterminds, retreats, group offerings, all that kind of thing. I wouldn't recommend that until you're hitting 10K a month, because there are other things that you will need to deal with at that point. Not least, admin will go up exponentially, but it's up to you how you ultimately choose your business model. So just think about that. If you are plateauing at a certain income level, when was the last time you raised your prices? Are your prices actually in line with the transformation you're offering? Because the more clients you work with, the better results you get, the quicker you help get those results, and obviously the more you actually need to be charging for them. Okay. And then the third thing we have to consider when it comes to practical elements of, being at a certain income level or breaking through that revenue plateau is, are we actually selling enough? Are we actually offering the sale? A lot of the time we're not, and I see this a lot, especially with people who are selling one-to-one, is that they'll get so used to, great, well, I've got my 3 clients of the month, or I've got my 5 clients of the month. Cool, off I go. I don't really want to sell anymore. I'm bored of selling the same thing. I'm bored of talking about it. I don't want to write any more posts on it. People will be getting bored of what I'm talking about, blah, 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 blah. So they stop selling and they impose that income level on themselves because they aren't selling anymore. They aren't putting any more offers out there. They're not putting a different offer out, and they're not putting the same offer out for an extended period of time because they're bored of it. So that directly contributes to the amount of revenue that obviously they can make. Now, those are the main reasons that you can be struggling with a revenue plateau, and the best ways to obviously move through it are to really assess. If it is a mindset issue, then make sure you get some support. I would highly recommend Heather Gray. She is absolutely awesome. If you get in contact with her, she is a really phenomenal resource for helping you sort out any of those niggling mindset monkeys around pricing and around, really understanding how to up-level your performance. So if you do have a genuine mindset issue, if you are identifying and thinking, yep, actually this is due to a lack in my confidence or the way that I'm attaching my self-worth to what I'm generating, make sure you go and have a chat with her. If it is the practical elements of generating the extra revenue, then make sure that you are in the challenge next week. I can't stress that enough. I'm going to be spending an awful lot of time with everybody who is involved in the challenge, going through those 5 steps and helping you create more cash in your business. I'm really, really excited about it. So if you need a little bit more accountability and some support, and you think, I'd like to do this with other people, get Jess's eyes on what I'm doing and get some feedback, then make sure that you are signed up for the challenge next week. Now, I will be back on Friday. Yay! All very, very exciting on Friday. We've got the amazing Nick Smith on the podcast. We're talking about a really cool event that I am speaking at in October. So in just over a month's time, I'm going to be on a stage with Ash Amberger and Denise Duffield Thomas. I am super excited about that. And on the episode on Friday, we're going to be talking to Nick and getting all the backstage, behind the scenes gossip on how she managed to get some incredible keynote speakers for that event, and how she managed to go from a multi-million-dollar pet brand to creating her awesome personal brand business. So I will see you on Friday in that episode. Expect appearances from Max, talk about dogs, and some really, really interesting information about the journey. I'll see you then.